Vor der Landung, bei der Landung, während der Landung. Der Typ hat in einer mega Geschwindigkeit so viel Fakten über die Air Force One und das Maschinen.
He's already in the wrong direction. Try and do it. That's my first time. I thought the camera would do this by itself, you know? And the camera didn't know this. Automatic go.
It has a face recognition.
Yeah,
that would be great.
It does have face recognition. It's pretty aggressive. Yeah. Choosing faces and focus can change a lot. Yeah. So you can turn it off. The face recognition autofocus is great if there's one person when there's multiple. It's
Mag je dat voor bijna inzetten?
Voor u ook. Die micro's die moeten echt hier komen, want anders, ja, als hij hier staat, als een baas kan hier komen staan, dan kan niemand anders dat gaan. En dan die micro's moeten echt dat hij hier komt staan. En dan kan de rest daar ook nog allemaal aan. Steek er gewoon, dus nog een twee lijntjes tussen of zo, maar...
No, further away. Because if he comes close, we won't get the shot. That would be perfect.
That's what I'm trying to do now.
Yeah.
Obviously.
and the cable space.
Ja, maar je moet rekenen. Zij kennen die micro's niet, hè? Dus zij gaan hier komen staan bij die micro's. Dat is wat ze gaan doen. Nee, maar ze gaan bij de micro's gaan staan. Ze gaan nooit hier blijven staan, dat gaan ze niet doen. En als de micro's zo ver staan, gaan ze ook niet goed aankomen, dan gaat er heel tijd geklik worden van dat toestel.
Die moet ook een beetje omhoog.
Ik weet niet wat de regie zegt, maar...
Blijkbaar wel, we moeten het voorbij meer naar boven, want ze gaan...
Is dat niet te hoog niet maken?
We moeten niks van maken, dat de borst. Moet ik even borst gebied.
Zeg maar hoe dat je moet zetten.
Ja, zo. Wat voor bijna lint, Bart?
Ja, even wel. Maar het is correct, als ze daar gaan staan, dan gaan ze heel goed komen. Het is perfect. Maar dan plakken we hier nog een kruisje.
Ja.
En dan, als je een beetje koffie hebt, dan... En dan kan ook iedereen eraan, hè?
Ja, voilà.
Is dat oké voor de regie?
Als Lotte niet toe was.
Tuurlijk.
Ja, dat kan.
Hebben we een beetje gaf voor die twee kruisjes te plakken?
Hebben we wat gaffa mee? Ja. Met de werk en een rugzak. Perfect, man. Merci.
Ja?
Ça va?
Ja, nee?
Da wäre halt Zweck für alle. Das ist nah rankommen, ist ja eigentlich alles schlecht außer
Ja. Ja, ik had deze
Dit wordt hoor.
Je staat zich te goed aan, hè?
Oké.
Ha? Dan heb je helemaal op aan.
Nee, je mag mij... Ik ga hier één kleintje plakken.
Nou, wat op er dat ook iets met zich zeggen. We gaan met dat toe met zich.
Gewoon zo.
Nou gaat hij om je.
Is het goed voor jullie nu zo?
Good morning. We meet here at the NATO headquarters facing the most serious security crisis in a generation. And we will address this crisis together and address the threat it means for Ukraine, for NATO and for the whole international rules-based order. President Zelensky will address the NATO leaders, and the leaders will focus on our support to Ukraine. Allies have provided support to Ukraine for several years, and we have stepped up with more military support, financial support, humanitarian support, to help Ukraine uphold its fundamental right for self-defense. NATO's core task is to protect and defend all allies. We have increased our military presence in the eastern part of the alliance. The NATO leaders will today address the need for a reset of our deterrence and defense in the longer term. And the first step is the establishment of 4 new battle groups in the eastern part of the alliance in Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary and Slovakia. We need to do more, therefore we need to invest more, and there is a new sense of urgency, and I expect that the leaders will agree to accelerate the investments in defense to meet the pledge we have made to invest more. And I welcome that several allies have already made announcements on investing more in defense. The meeting today will demonstrate the importance of North America and Europe standing together, facing this crisis. And we are the strongest alliance in the world, and as long as we stand together, we are also safe. Thank you.
I want to get a sense from you of NATO's understanding of President Putin's actual mental state at this point, because what we understand, of course, is that even his central bank governor is trying to be proposed, and he's seeing some defection, if you will, from his inner circle. What's your sense of his mental state at this point?
President Putin has made a big mistake, and that is to launch a war, to wage war against an independent sovereign nation. He has underestimated the strength of the Ukrainian people, the bravery of the Ukrainian people and the armed forces, and therefore they are also meeting much more resistance than they expected. We need, in order to address the actions that we see Russia is doing in Ukraine, and that's also the reason why we have significantly stepped up the support to Ukraine, and why we have increased the presence of NATO troops in the eastern part of the alliance and increased the readiness of troops. We do so to be able to respond and address any threat, any challenge to our security, and what kind of decisions and what kind of decisions they may make in Moscow. I will not speculate further about that.
But are you worried about a nuclear threat?
To show the Ukrainian sky. From Ukrainian media, it's been talked about. Can you explain, if not, why not, or if yes, at what conditions?
NATO allies provide significant military support to Ukraine. NATO allies have trained tens of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers who are now on the front line fighting against the invading Russian forces. The Ukrainian army is much better equipped, much better trained, much better commanded now than in 2014. And the combination of training and support from NATO allied countries with the bravery and the courage of the Ukrainian armed forces is enabling the Ukrainians to really resist and actually fight back the invading Russian army. We provide Ukraine also with advanced air defense systems, with anti-tank weapons, with ammunition and fuel. So allies are providing many different types of support. But we have also made it clear that we will not send in NATO troops on the ground or NATO planes in the air. We do that because we have a responsibility to ensure that this conflict do not escalate beyond Ukraine. That will cause even more suffering, even more death, even more destruction. And to declare a no-fly zone over Ukraine means that we need to impose it. And to impose a no-fly zone means that we need to massively attack Russian air defense systems in Russia, in Belarus and in Ukraine, and also be ready to shoot down Russian planes. And then the risk for a full-fledged war between NATO and Russia will be very high, and that will cause more death and more destruction.
You mentioned yesterday that if chemical weapons are used in Ukraine, it could have a direct impact in NATO countries. Could this be considered an attack on a NATO ally?
I will not speculate beyond saying the following, that any use of chemical weapons would fundamentally change the nature of the conflict. It will be a blatant violation of international law, and it will have widespread and severe consequences. The seriousness of using chemical weapons, of course, becomes even more obvious, knowing that there is a risk always for contamination, that chemical agents are spread over bigger areas. So this will be a catastrophe for the people of Ukraine, but of course there is also a risk that we can see the spread of chemical agents also into NATO territory. I will not speculate beyond the fact that NATO is always ready to defend, to protect and to react to any type of attack on a NATO allied country.
How concerned are you about China's role in this? And the second question, what does the new military posture of NATO mean in terms of national defense spending?
On national defense spending, I see a new sense of urgency among allies, that they all understand that since we now need to do more, we face the most serious security crisis in a generation, so therefore we need to invest more in our security. And their allies understand that the only way to do that is also to allocate more money for national defense budgets. And I expect allies to agree to accelerate the implementation of the commitments we have made to invest more in defense. And I welcome the decision, for instance, by Germany to spend 2% of GDP on defense. This will really make a difference because Germany has such a big economy. So the increased investments by Germany makes a difference for the whole alliance. Yeah. Well, what we call on China to join the rest of the world in clearly condemning the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and not provide political support, and of course neither provide any kind of material support to the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
If the allies were to unanimously ask you to stay on as General Secretary today, would you say yes?
So I will leave that decision to the 30 leaders to decide. I don't have any further comments.
Would you call what is happening, Lotte Meidel from TV2 Denmark, would you call what is happening in Ukraine now for a genocide? And if so, what kind of responsibility does NATO have to prevent a genocide?
NATO is providing unprecedented support to Ukraine, helping them to defend themselves. NATO allies are also imposing unprecedented sanctions on Russia to reduce the capability of Russia to finance this war against Ukraine. And we are also, of course, making sure that we are ready to protect and defend all allies. What we have seen is attacks against civilians, civilian infrastructure, and this is a clear violation of international law. I therefore also welcome that the International Criminal Court has started an investigation and will look into this, because at the end it has to be this body that decides on issues related to violation of international law.
Mr. Secretary General, Georgian Public Broadcasting, yesterday you mentioned that it's important to protect other partners as well. What about the Georgia, and do we see some statements about Georgia at the end of the communique of NATO?
I expect that allies also today in the meeting, that the leaders today in the meeting will express their support to partners which are under pressure from Russia, and that includes, of course, Georgia. Georgia has the right to choose its own path. NATO allies have provided support for Georgia over many years to help them to implement reforms, to modernize the defense and security institutions, and the brutal invasion of Ukraine just highlights, underscores the need to provide support to Georgia.
One final question from Pro TV.
Mr. Secretary General, Pro TV Romania, Paul Angelescu, given the war in Ukraine, what is NATO's view regarding possible permanent NATO bases presence in Romania? And regarding the battle group, will it be made up of the troops that have already been sent from US, Belgium, France in Romania in the past month, or there will be additional troops from other countries?
So NATO has already increased its military presence in Romania. We have deployed the elements of the High Readiness Joint Task Force led by France. I visited Romania a few weeks ago, and I also met with the troops from the United States and from other countries, and they all demonstrate a commitment to stay and to protect and help to defend NATO territory also in Romania. These troops will be there as long as necessary, but this is part of the immediate response to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Then I expect at the meeting today that the leaders will start the process that will provide us with advice to make more longer-term decisions on our longer-term deterrence and defense, because we need to reset our deterrence and defense. These decisions I expect leaders to take then at the summit later on in June. So these are two different processes. One is what we already have done, and that will be there as long as necessary. And then we are addressing the more longer-term changes in our deterrence and defense. The fact is that we face the most serious security crisis in a generation, and therefore NATO needs to respond, and that's the reason why we need to reset our deterrence and defense for the long term.
Are chemical weapons a red line for NATO?
Thank you.
We need to wrap. Thank you.
Well, there's a reason to be concerned always, and I think we have to make it clear that that will be met with very serious consequences from neighbors and NATO.
Are you concerned that this could spill over on NATO territory?
Sorry?
Are you concerned that especially a chemical weapons attack could spill over into NATO territory?
Well, I mean, this is a concern, but I believe we just simply have to make it clear that that is unacceptable. And make that very clearly.
Is that a red line for military intervention for NATO allies?
We just make it clear that it is unacceptable and it has to be met with the serious consequences.
What clear message do you want President Putin to receive after today?
Allies are unified. We stand by the clear principle of collective defense in NATO. Article 5 is there to protect member states, and we have demonstrated since this last month that that is very solid.
What about the defense of other parts?
Thank you.
gerade der NATO-Typ, der noch Frage, die ARD wird nicht einstellen.
Dann stellen wir uns heute nebeneinander später.
Ja, wie gesagt, wir organisieren euch einen Platz hier auf dem Hügel. Ja. Haben wir für uns organisiert. Ich sage, wir teilen uns die mit der ARD. Ja. Nein, weil sie kommen da nicht hin.
Aber gibt es da ein Schild?
Nein, aber sie haben gesagt, sie haben für uns Platz reserviert.
Okay, die NATO hat eigentlich für ZDF was reserviert, steht nicht gut einfach nicht so. Markus stellt neben euch.
Ja, okay. Sie soll da hingehen und sagen, kann er sagen, dass wir den Platz teilen mit euch.
Hast du ihn trotzdem noch?
Ja, ich schreibe ihn. Ja.
Danke viel.
Summitul NATO a început deja mai devreme. Secretarul general al NATO a venit aici să discute despre asta. L-am întrebat ce se va întâmpla în România, ce presupune acest grup de luptă care a fost anunțat că va fi înființat pe teritoriul țării noastre și dacă secretarul general
compact answer. I wouldn't want to speculate about
Dann musst du dem auch, also ich musste mit meinem Außenministerium sprechen. Das ist schon wirklich aber dann kannst du auch dir, wenn du die Musiker hast, vorstellen, ja, kannst du dann welchen Wein, welche Bank.
Ladies and gentlemen, just some of you have heard this already, but some of you haven't. There's been a bunch of new people come in, so I just want to say that we have a culture of community that makes sure that everybody gets their shot here in this group. So when leaders are coming up, if national press are asking you to move out of the way so that they can get to their leader, just please do them that favor so they can do you that favor later on as well. Okay?
And let's do the favor for Ukrainian press, which has no national leader. Yes.
Okay, so do a favor for the Ukrainian press as well. Ukrainian press, raise your hand. There we go, all right.
Thank you.
Judge it, right? What happens is that when the motorcades come in, there's no movement. And they may be stacking up motorcade outside. Sometimes you get 3 in a row. At 9, you need to be here at 9:15. That's kind of like the limit. Right? But then move.
going for 1 semester or the summer?
1 semester from September.
Good.
C'est un autre monde de l'EA. Comment les blocs à
asked me to stand here to the second point. First, I'm very much looking forward to this NATO summit. I think we should talk more about what we do, rather what we don't do, and of course what we can do to help Ukraine, in addition to what we have done so far. I think we have to double our efforts. Putin cannot win this war. This is very important to all of us, to the security of NATO as well. And the second thing we need to discuss is how to increase our defense spending and how to do it very wisely, so that we strengthen the eastern flank, and especially the Baltic countries, because we can't have this plan to defend the country alone and then be liberated afterwards. So that's why we need to become from the deterrence posture to defense plans and to very specific things to strengthen our part of the alliance.
How concerned are you about a chemical weapons attack, and also considering the fact that the Secretary General yesterday said there could be some contamination in the NATO territory?
Of course, we are very worried about what Russia does. Putin's steps are made to make us afraid as well, so that it would deter us from helping Ukraine further or making additional steps. And we should definitely not fall into that trap. We have to stop the war criminal.
If chemical weapons are used in Ukraine, what do you think NATO's stance should be if this red line is crossed?
Well, as I say, we definitely have to discuss what we can do more in order to stop this war, because Putin can't win this war. Thank you.
Dat is niks. Je kan natuurlijk wel zien dat er een boel in dat trekt die switch. Zo risico's in de switch gaan kijken.
Ja. Zo eens kijken naar wat er errors zijn over de zeebels.
To help Ukraine, in addition to what we have done so far. I think we have to double our efforts.
Ja, dat is BPDU-kaart wat op staat.
BPDU-kaart voor de...
tout à l'heure, je prendrai le temps, à l'issue du sommet, de faire une conférence de presse.
Vous saluez néanmoins ce sujet, ce qui va coûter très cher.
J'y reviendrai tout à l'heure. Merci beaucoup.
Hello. Today we have two main tasks. First, to agree on widest possible help for Ukraine, and second, to strengthen NATO's eastern flank. And I am sure that we will manage these two tasks. Thank you.
How concerned are you about a chemical weapons attack in Ukraine?
We will discuss it because we should help Ukraine. This is a task, this is a goal, and we will agree on that.
Mr. President, what about the partners, close partners of NATO, for example, for Georgia, because maybe the Georgia will become the next goal, because we have the bad experience.
We have some responsibility for the partners too, but of course we are NATO allies. This is alliance of defense of the allies of the 30 member states, and we will help also the partners to defend democracy in every possible way. Thank you.
NATO can stop Russia? Do you think it's possible for NATO to stop Russia?
At the end, Russia must fail. Thank you.
Despite its name, NATO is not simply a geographic alliance. It's a group of countries who stand together because we believe in democracy, in the rule of law, in the defense of human rights, in the values that underpin all of our societies. That's why this illegal, brutal invasion of a friendly democracy in Ukraine by Vladimir Putin is absolutely unacceptable. And NATO and partners around the world are united in condemning and standing up to Russia, but also being there to support the Ukrainians as they stand and fight for the values that underpin all of our democracies. L'alliance de l'OTAN n'est pas juste une alliance géographique, c'est aussi une alliance ancrée dans les valeurs partagées, des valeurs de démocratie, de règles de droit, de respect des droits universels. Et c'est pour ça que nous sommes si unis dans notre détermination à démontrer à Vladimir Poutine qui a fait une erreur terrible, que son invasion illégale de l'Ukraine doit cesser. Et nous allons continuer de rester fermes dans notre appui pour nos amis ukrainiens et pour défendre la démocratie dans le monde. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Oui. Ça va, si.
Of solidarity. It's a moment of showing deterrence towards the Russian Federation. It's also a moment where we show solidarity with the Ukrainian people. Ukrainian people which have shown an incredible amount of resilience towards a Russian leader who has actually lost any sense of what is reasonable these days. NATO is not an engaged party in this war, and we will remain not engaged in this war, but we'll do anything to weaken the Russian Federation. We do that with the sanctions which we enacted, and these sanctions have a profound impact. On the Belgian side, we show our solidarity. We are engaged today in two places on the eastern border. We're engaged in Estonia. We're engaged in Romania, and obviously, if demanded, we will show our solidarity and do additional measures. Over the past weeks, we have announced a vast amount of additional investment, and today at this summit, I will on the Belgian side also announce additional investments that we will do in the next 3 years, so this year, next year and the year after, to be able to be more operational. We know that the requirements coming from NATO, the bar has been risen higher, and we need to be ready to show our solidarity and be able to pull our weight.
What happens if there's a chemical weapons? Would that be a red line for NATO intervention?
Well, I have to say that if you look at what is happening today in this war, the total disregard of humanitarian law, the total disregard of international laws, I mean, we are already quite high on the scale of atrocities. And the war crimes that take place, we need to document them, we need to analyze them, and we need to prosecute them at the given time. I think we've been very clear on the deterrence part. And it is the case that if chemical weapons or anything else would be used, that would have definitely grave consequences.
ProTV Romania, is your country ready to send additional reinforcement to the Black Sea to Romania if necessary? And as a wider question, the Black Sea region, how do you think deterrence should look in this region in this new context on medium and longer term, maybe permanent presence?
Well, Well, today we're present in Romania and we're extremely happy with the cooperation that we have with the Romanian government. We have 300 people there today. We know that we will probably be there on the long run. If additional requests are put on the table, we will show our solidarity. We will announce today as well additional investment in our operational ability of our defense. If that request is for additional resources in Romania, we'd be happy to increase the excellent cooperation we have with Romania.
What do you make of China's role, especially if they might deliver military support to Russia?
Well, I think we've been quite clear in our messages towards China. I think the Russian Federation is isolated, is waging a war which is against any international law, with complete disregard of humanitarian law. This is something which, honestly, we haven't seen in the last decades anywhere in the world. And Russia is completely isolated today, and it should remain isolated to weaken them and reduce their capacity of waging a war. I think the messages to China have been very, very clear. Please keep distance, and up to now China has done so. And I would hope that the international solidarity towards taking distance from this type of war remains. Okay, thank you.
Tak.
Dobro jutro.
Morda kar prvo vprašanje, bo Slovenija zdaj že kaj bolj konkretno se ve poslala vojake na Slovaško, morda tudi drugam, kakšno bo število?
Slovenija bo poslala četo, se pravi 200 slovenskih vojakov v bataljonsko oziroma bojno skupino na Slovaško. Odločitev je bila že sprejeta. Gre za sodelovanje še z drugimi državami članicami NATO. V Ukrajino pa odhaja naša diplomatska misija. Mislim, da se postopki danes oziroma jutri zaključujejo. Vendar to ni vojaška misija, kot se napačno poroča. Gre za diplomatsko misijo pod vodstvom odpravnika poslov, ki se bo v Ukrajini trudila za doseganje miru, za pomoč vsem tistim, ki so ostali v Kijevu in ki si preko diplomatskih poti prizadevajo za končanje vojne.
Ne bo pa to misija v imenu EU?
Ne, misija v imenu EU je nekaj drugega. O tem pogovori še potekajo, tudi danes bodo. Tukaj gre za odpravnika poslov slovenskega zunanjega ministrstva, ki bo zastopal Slovenijo.
Veliko se zdaj govori tudi na NATO, da je ta verjetnost morebitnega napada s kemičnim biološkim orožjem kar precejšna. NATO to skrbi. Je Slovenija recimo pripravljena pošiljati kakšno zaščitno opremo, ker kot vemo, smo tukaj Slovenci relativno močni?
Slovenija ima določene zmogljivosti pri zaščiti oziroma obrambi pred kemičnim in biološkim orožjem. Vendar je moja osebna ocena, da kar se tiče tovrstnih groženj, obstaja tveganja, ker agresorske ruske sile napadajo kemične tovarne oziroma objekte, kjer lahko prihaja do izpustov. Mislim pa, da je sama neposredna uporaba kemičnega ali biološkega orožja strani ruskih sil malo verjetno, ker bi to bil velik strel v kolen.
Generalni sekretar je včeraj pozval zaveznice k podvojitvi obrambnih izdatkov naložb. Slovenija je med najslabšimi pri uresničevanju obeh ciljev. A bo namerava vlada okrepiti obrambne?
Slovenija je bila doslej med najslabšimi z zakonom, ki je bil sprejet že pred časom v tem mandatu. za okrepitev financiranja naložb v Slovenski vojski nismo več, oziroma ne bomo več med najslabšimi, očitno pa bo potrebno napore še okrepiti in o tem bo danes tekla razprava.
Prime Minister, you went to Kiev by train. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what did you learn there that you're going to address today?
Many things. Actually, we went to Kiev to show our support for them. I think that there are 4 things Ukraine needs the most. One is a hope, and that they are not abandoned. Second thing is our modern weapons. Third thing is money, to survive in this situation where economy is disturbed. And fourth thing is humanitarian aid. And we have been speaking about all these issues very concretely, and we have some important messages for our colleagues today for NATO and EU summit.
Are you concerned about a chemical weapons attack?
Actually, we are concerned when we see that Russian aggression forces are shelling chemical plants and similar facilities. This could trigger a disaster of large scale. But I personally don't believe that Russian military itself will use chemical or biological weapons purposely for tactical achievements, because this would be, very unwise and a shot in their own knee.
The goal is to isolate about the partner countries as Georgia, because Secretary General mentioned that there will be also discussions about these countries.
Yeah, of course, and everything we are doing to strengthen the Ukraine, to help the Ukraine to defend itself, it's also somehow helping to Moldova, to Georgia. And speaking about the political issues, political response to these challenges, I think that advanced negotiations regarding EU membership is also very helpful, and we support it strongly. We support it strongly.
Sorry, Prime Minister, you just mentioned the chemical plants, shelling on chemical plants. Is there evidence that Russia is doing that?
There was one case when it was publicly known. We still don't know if this was done by purpose or this was collateral damage. But of course, in every country, Ukraine is not exception. We have such industrial facilities inside of the cities which are under attack, and this can cause catastrophe, which is not intentionally caused by using chemical weapons from the military directly, but by attacking objects or cities or towns where such facilities are located.
Który dzisiaj jest bezpośrednio dotknięty falą uchodźców z Ukrainy. To ponad 2 miliony ludzi już, którzy uciekli przed wojną, przed rosyjską agresją, przed śmiercią,
It could be because when such disasters happen, then the administrative borders are not the limit. So this is why we have to be very careful when we are speaking about the red lines. Remember what happened in Syria. So we have to be very clear when we define the situation where we'll consider some acts as a direct attack on the NATO
Trzeba to
countries.
uczynić maksymalnie możliwymi pokojowymi środkami, ale bardzo skutecznie i zdecydowanie. Musi być jedność i absolutne zdecydowanie ze strony sojuszu. To jest to, czego oczekuję.
V Bosni smo že okrepili določene obrambne sile, preventivno, in mislim, da je bil to pravočasen ukrep na predlog gospoda Borela. Mislim pa, da v tem trenutku obstajajo politične napetosti, obžalujemo, da so propadla včeraj pogajanja o novem volilnem zakonu. Tukaj je potrebno doseči dogovor, sicer pa je v tem trenutku to, kar se dogaja v Ukrajini, to, da se tam zaustavi ruska agresija, izjemno pomembno tudi za Bosno. Če se bo ta vojna v Ukrajini nadaljevala, potem bodo posledice tega konflikta pravzaprav občutene povsod, še posebej na tistem delu Zahodnega Balkana, kjer so stvari nerešene.
The situation in Ukraine shows that this is very important, that NATO alliance. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I think this is a very good opportunity to send the signals. First of all, to send the signal to aggressor country, Russia, to send a signal to Ukraine that we are ready to provide all necessary military assistance in order to make this war or military operation, as they call it, for Russia even more painful. And this is a good opportunity to send a signal to the allies. First of all, those allies which are directly exposed to the threats. And I represent Lithuania. This is a country sandwiched between heavily militarized Kaliningrad region and also Belarus. As you very well know, Belarus is fully integrated into military system of Russia. It means that we don't have any buffer anymore. We don't have the time to react, and this changes the military calculus of NATO entirely. This is the reason why we have to build the deterrence through very credible deployment of foreign troops, NATO troops, and of course we are ready to do our homework. And this homework is, first of all, defense spending. We increase our defense spending this year up to 2.5% of our GDP. Next year, or in nearest years, it will be probably 3% of GDP. So we try to be as good as possible, good hosting nation, which is ready to provide all necessary infrastructure for the troops coming. And those troops are coming, and I am really happy to say that the United States troops will be deployed, additional number of troops. Germany, which is leading TFP presence in Lithuania, also decided to increase troops, and other countries too. So I think this is very important. And the last thing I would like to mention, yesterday I had a phone call with President Volodymyr Zelensky. The situation in Mariupol is just terrible. Hundreds of killed people in the streets. It's not possible to bury them because of constant shelling. So we have to find the solutions, humanitarian solutions. But of course it's extremely difficult to find those solutions if one of the sides is not ready, just unwilling to find those solutions. Intentionally bombing, intentionally killing innocent people. I cannot find the words. What is it? You know, nobody can feel safe now. Maybe it will be Poland, maybe it will be Baltic states, but nobody in Europe, even those countries which are distant from the direct border with Russia, even those countries are not safe today. This is a challenge. This is a challenge for the entire region, for democratic world, Western principles. Maybe it will be the last challenge, but we cannot lose it. We have to also exposed, and this is the reason why we enthusiastically asking for more support within the European format. This is the reason why we asking constantly to take necessary steps to provide a perspective for those countries, European perspective. Yes, we can discuss the wording, maybe the timetable, but it's very important to give those signals to Georgia, to Moldova, which is even probably in more difficult situation than Georgia, and to Ukraine, of course, first of all. Unfortunately, we cannot reject such possibility, but we have to do all in our hands that Russia understands very well the price of such entertainment, not the right word. The price should be very high, first of all, in economic sense of this word, and I think so far we have the room for maneuver by imposing sanctions. I think it was probably more better policy to go full speed from the very beginning. Now we are talking about possible fifth, sixth package of the sanctions, but you know, if you want to achieve the result, sanctions take time and the consequences come after a certain time lag. So this is the reason why we have to be decisive as possible, as much decisive as possible in order to make this pain for Russia, for oligarchs, and even for middle class. Because, you know, support to Putin's policy, if we believe those sociological polls, maybe they have wrong, but support is growing, and it worries me a lot.
Would you call that sanctions fatigue right now? Would you say we are in
Sorry,
sanctions fatigue?
a few minutes for my...
I think it's crucial that we meet today.
Welcome. No, thank you. If you wish to address
because we hold the senior guys are gone.
Bonjour madame, ça va?
bitte?
Wie besorgt sind Sie bezüglich eines chemischen
Besorgt. Das ist ja auch in der Presse rausgekommen und auch in Gesprächen, die ich auch selber mit dem Präsident Putin hatte, dass er daran glaubt. Ich habe ihn auch erinnert, dass bei der UN auch der Beauftragte für Chemiewaffen es bestätigt hat, dass es nichts gibt zwischen Amerika und der Ukraine, um irgendwie was zu bauen. Deswegen ist Kontakt wichtig. Es ist wichtig, dass man auch ihm sagt, was in der Ukraine los ist. Und es ist aber schon, dass er dran glauben würde, ist schon gefährlich. Und deswegen ist es wichtig, dass man wirklich erklärt, dass nichts dran ist.
Was würde es für die NATO bedeuten, wenn es in der Ukraine passiert?
Also Sie wissen ja, wir haben ja Regeln mit dem Artikel 5. Ich habe ja auch heute Nachmittag auch Europäischer Rat und jeder hat seine Kompetenz und seine Möglichkeiten. Tschüss.
Red line for NATO? Should they be prepared to act?
Look, I think that the reality is that Vladimir Putin has already crossed the red line into barbarism, and I think it's now up to NATO to consider together the appalling crisis in Ukraine, the appalling suffering of the people of Ukraine, and to see what more we can do to help the people of Ukraine to protect themselves, see what more we can do to tighten the economic vice around the Putin regime, and that's what some of the things we're going to be talking about.
Do you believe that there could potentially be a recession as a result of this invasion of Ukraine, and should Europe and the rest of the world be prepared for that?
I think it's very important that we work together to get this thing done as fast as possible. The harder our sanctions, the tougher our economic vice around the Putin regime, the more we can do to help the Ukrainians. I think the faster that this thing can be over. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Sometimes I get my best information.
This summit is a strong signal of our determination to stop this brutal war, and of course it's a great signal to Ukraine, to support of Ukraine. Slovakia is a direct neighbor of Ukraine. We are receiving hundreds of thousands of refugees, and of course we are providing humanitarian and military aid. I would like to say that I am very glad for a new battle group in my country, because this is strong support to our defense and security. And finally, I would like to say that President Putin needs to understand that Russia's borders are given by international law, not by his tanks. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I was going to say.
La Pologne a fait un doorstep qu'on n'a pas diffusé, dire que tu le veux sur feed B. Oui. Ok. Oui, bien sûr. Pas de problème. Ok. Alors, LSMA sur canal X, dans feed B, dans 3, 2, 1, start. Donc pour le moment, feed B, arrivée, Pologne et doorstep. Et si j'ai bien compris, il me manque Danemark, Allemagne, Italie, Monténégro et États-Unis. Ok. Pendant que c'est déjà le lac. Ok, très bien. Mais on sera stand-by pour le choper s'il arrive là. Ok. Est-ce qu'on peut enregistrer BGM plus app sur un LSM? BGM plus app? Je peux le prendre en live sur direct. Il faut enregistrer Neto BGM plus app, donc le premier signal qui vient de Neto. Au cas où. There's two lines coming from Neto Studio. BGM and BGM2. I ask you to just record BGM. Okay, so.
To je blokirano, barikade su baš blokirane. Možeš doći samo od jednog smjera.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, how are you? Good morning. A quick question over here, please. Good morning.
Chemical weapons are a red line for the NATO
How concerned are you about a chemical weapons attack?
Sì. No, no,
Ladies and gentlemen, if I can have your attention, please. If I can have all the accompanying staff move to my side of the family photo podium. Come here, please. And if I can have all the heads of state and government line up for the photo. Thank you very much. So all staff, please move to this side. So also, when we have done the family photo, we will move the leaders into room 1. So if you have a seat in room 1, I suggest you already go and find it now. All we're doing here is the photo. I promise they will all be safe. You need to clean this area. Okay. So once I have all the leaders, we need to clean this area. It needs to be empty. Are you helping them find their spots? Your Excellencies, if I can ask you to look into the camera for 5 seconds. Yes, that camera. Thank you very much. We will proceed to your left and walk into room 1.
Okay, I think we're ready to start, so please find your seats. Good morning to all of you, and welcome to this extraordinary NATO summit. We gather at a critical time for our security. We are united in condemning the Kremlin's unprovoked aggression and in our support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. We are determined to continue to impose costs on Russia to bring about the end of this brutal war. We pay tribute to the great courage of the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian armed forces fighting for their freedom and their rights. We also recognize those in Russia who are bravely speaking out against the war. We hear their voices, they matter. Today we will discuss Allied support to Ukraine. We will also address NATO's efforts to strengthen our defenses now and for the years to come. We are already doing more on land, at sea and in the air. This is necessary to respond to a new security reality in Europe. This concludes the public part of the meeting. I thank the media for joining us at the opening, and we will continue our deliberations in a moment. So thank you so much for joining us.
This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters live service.